Today we just want to do word problems that involve simultaneous equations. So the trickiest part is often making the equations from the problems that you've been given and then using whichever strategy you like, elimination or substitution, to solve. Okay, so question 1. Find two numbers whose difference is 5 and whose sum is 17. So I'm going to have to introduce my own pronumerals into this question. So I'm going to choose x and y. So I'm going to say let the numbers be x and y. So it says these two numbers have a difference of 5. Now I'm going to let x be the bigger number. Okay, so if x is bigger, that means if I go x take away y, that's going to be equal to 5. I'm also told that their sum is 17. So that means x plus y equals 17. So there are my two equations. You may have used different letters. You may have chosen y instead of x to be bigger. But it will still work if you set your equations up correctly. Okay, so now I am going to choose which method to solve. Now, the way I have written those, you can actually see that the x's and the y's actually already have the same coefficient. So it's set up very nicely to do an elimination method. So, and I can choose even whether I want to add or subtract those equations. If I add them, the y's will eliminate. If I subtract them, the x's will eliminate. So what shall we do? What shall we do? Want to add them or subtract them? Subtract. Okay. So I'm going to go like this, big sum sign, and I am going to subtract those two equations. So I'll call this one equation 1 and equation 2, and writing my instructions, I'm subtracting 1 minus 2. I shouldn't say sub. I'm going to write that differently because it looks like sub if I do that. 1 minus 2. So x minus x makes nothing. So they're going to eliminate. Minus y minus another y is minus 2y. 5 minus 17 is minus 12. Okay? Divide by negative 2. And I get y is equal to a positive 6. I still need to find x. So I'm going to substitute back into one of my original equations. Which one would you like to choose? X minus y. Okay, so equation 1. So now I'm going to sub into equation 1. So I'm trying to find the x. Y is 6, so minus 6 equals 5. To get the x by itself, I add 6. So x is equal to 11. Now, x and y were pronumerals that I introduced. They were not in the question. So for a wordy problem, you should always remember to give a wordy answer. The question actually asked me to find two numbers whose difference is 5 and whose sum is 17. So I'd write a little conclusion down here and I would say, therefore, the two numbers are 6 and 11. Okay, let's do another one. Question B. The difference between two numbers is 3. If 3 times the larger number minus double the smaller number is 20, find the two numbers. So again, I'm going to have to choose some pronumerals. Let's do the same as last time. Let's use x and y. So let the numbers be x and y. And let's make the x bigger again, where x is bigger. Okay, so reading through the sentence again. The difference between the two numbers is 3. That means I want to subtract them, bigger one minus smaller one. So bigger is x, subtract the y, and that gives me a 3. That was the first sentence. The second sentence says, if 3 times the larger number, so that means 3 times x, minus double the smaller number, double means to times by 2, so 2y, is 20. So that equals 20. Find the two numbers. So I've made the two equations. Now I want to solve them. So the x's have different coefficients, the y have different coefficients. So it's not perfect to do elimination yet. I could rearrange to do a substitution if you wanted to. You can actually choose. If you prefer a certain method, you might go, I prefer to do substitution. I'm going to rearrange that first equation and get x by itself and sub it in. Or you might prefer substitution. It doesn't matter which method you use, you will get the same answer unless you make a mistake somewhere along the way. Okay? So, should I do elimination again? Yeah. And to make either the x's or the y's the same, let's make the x's the same by taking that first equation and multiplying everything through by 3. Okay, so let's rewrite them. You always rewrite the equations. So that's 3x minus 3y is equal to 3 times 3 is 9. Don't forget to multiply that last number on the end. Okay, it has to be multiplied as well. The second equation I'm not going to change, but I am going to rewrite it just so that I can have my equations lining up. And again, it actually doesn't matter if you had the equations written in a different way, as in you put the second one on top instead of what I've done. If you put them in a different order, again, it'll just put more minuses in there, or it'll cancel out and we'll get the same answer. Okay, so my x's are the same. To make them cancel, do I need to add or subtract those equations? Subtract. So, because they're both positive, to make them cancel, I need to go 3x minus 3x to get nothing. So equation 1 minus equation 2. 3x minus 3x is no x, they're gone. Minus 3y minus minus, okay, 2 minus there makes a plus. So minus 3 plus 2 makes minus y. And 9 minus 20 is negative 11. Okay, so all I need to do is divide minus 1 to get the y positive, so y equals a positive 11. Substitute back into where? How about just equation 1? Let's sub into equation 1. So that's 3x minus 3y is 3 times 11, and that's equal to 9. 3 times 11 is 33, so let's go 3x minus 33 equals 9. Add the 33 to the other side. 9 plus 33 is 42. And then divide by 3. Oh, 16. That's 14. Thank you. Once you have your two numbers, remember that they were things that I introduced, so we want to write a little sentence for our answer. So over the side here, I'm going to write, therefore, the two numbers are 11 and 14. Someone's about to move. Stop talking. Next page, C. We now have a shape. A rectangle has a perimeter of 46 meters. The length is 5 meters longer than the width. What are the dimensions of the rectangle? So it's always good to have a little diagram, so let's draw one. Here is my rectangle. Okay, I have a length and a width. We are trying to do simultaneous equations here, so let's just call them x and y. It's okay to have two different pronumerals in there. So the first bit of information that I'm given is that the perimeter is 46 meters. So the perimeter of that shape would have 2 x's and 2 y's to go around the perimeter of that, and that would be equal to 46. The second bit of information that I'm given is that the length is 5 meters longer than the width. So my length is the y, it's the longer one, right? So that means that I would have to go y is equal to x plus 5. I need to add 5 onto that x to make it the same as the y. So that has an equation where y is by itself. I can sub equation 2, so let's call this equation 1, this one equation 2. I can substitute equation 2 into equation 1. That means y is equal to x plus 5. So this x plus 5, I'm circling that. It is going to go in where that y is in the first equation. Let's write down what that gives us. 2x plus 2, instead of the y, we put x plus 5, and that's equal to 46. We just want to solve that for x, so I have to expand everything out. 2x plus 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 5 is 10. 2x plus 2x on the left-hand side, collect them up, and that makes 4x plus 10 equals 46. Subtract the 10, and I get 36, divide by 4, and we finally get our answer of x is equal to 9. I still need to find the y. So sub into, probably equation 2 is the easier one, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to sub into 2. Y equals, x is 9, so it's 9 plus 5, which is 14. Now what does x and y actually represent? It represents the dimensions of that rectangle. So over here we need to say, therefore, the dimensions are 9 meters, because remember it was given a unit in the question, by 14 meters. You can read your question again. So when it says, what are the dimensions of the rectangle, you make sure you've answered it. The dimensions of the rectangle are 9 meters by 14 meters. Okay? And last one, D. 4 apples and 5 bananas costs $3.95. So I'm going to introduce my letters from the beginning here. I'm going to call the apples A for apple, and B for banana. That keeps things simple. And the cost of that is $3.95. So that's my first equation already. Let's write it down. 4 apples and 5 bananas costs $3.95. Now, I've paused there for a minute. $3.95, we don't normally like to have decimals in our equations. So you can change that into cents, which will make your equations a bit nicer to use. So I'm going to put in there 395. If you do it in dollars, that's okay, but you'll just have some not so pleasant numbers to work with at times. If the difference in price between an apple and a banana is 20 cents, what is the price of each piece of fruit? And it says in brackets an important piece of information. Assume that the apple is more expensive than the banana. Okay, so it's telling me if the apple is more expensive, I need to do apple minus banana, which is a difference of 20 cents. Okay, so that one's already in cents. So we can leave that one the way it is. Both of them are in cents. So my 2 equations. I can do substitution or I can do elimination. Well, we've done 2 eliminations and we've only done 1 substitution. How about we do another substitution just to keep things balanced? So I could take that second equation and I'm going to get the A by itself. So A equals 20 plus B. Just moving that B across to the other side. So my 2 equations that I'm going to use is this top one that I haven't changed and the second one that I rearranged. And A is by itself, so I'm going to substitute equation 2 into equation 1. That means that the 20 plus B is going to go in that equation where the A is. Let's write down what that gives us. 4 bracket 20 plus B. Okay, that's what's replacing the A. Plus 5B equals 395. Okay, expand out the brackets and solve for B. 4 times 20 is 80. 4 times B is 4B. Plus 5B equals 395. Collect up the B's. So 4B plus 5B makes 9B. Next step, subtract the 80. So 9B equals 315. And last step, divide by 9. So B equals 35. Still have to find A. So sub back into, which one do you think is the obvious choice?
2.
Equation 2, because it has A by itself. So it's usually the easier one if you have one polynomial by itself to use that one. So A equals 20 plus B, but B is 35. 20 plus 35 is 55. So remember my question was, what is the price of each piece of fruit? So let's answer it. Therefore, apples cost, where was the apple? A for apple, 55 cents. And bananas cost 35